You're watching Capital Connection from the Illinois State Capitol.
Welcome back. Now, Congress just avoided another government shutdown by passing another continuing resolution kicking the can down the road another few months. Joining us now to discuss that latest move by Congress, it's Congresswoman Nikki Budzinski. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Cole. I appreciate it.
This is number 3, I believe,
Yes.
for the continuing resolutions on the budget, avoiding a government shutdown, which is
Important.
good.
Yep.
But how much longer can this game of cat and mouse keep going?
Well, it's exactly what you said. It's kicking the can down the road. And I've said consistently that we should be able to come to a bipartisan agreement on a budget. Getting that done, creating some stability for the federal workforce, for our federal government. And so we're now looking at an early March deadline. That's when this latest short-term resolution expires. So I'm really hopeful that we're going to get to the work of this. I mean, again, Cole, what's frustrating about this is we should have been able to do this last year, but we're right where we were then. And it's a lack of leadership. You know, one of the things I can tell you that I know now after my first year in Congress is that leadership really matters. And the House leadership with the Republican, our new speaker, we're still struggling. And so I'm really hoping by early March we're going to get a bipartisan agreement done and get a budget locked in.
There are probably a lot of people that keep hearing about these continuing resolutions, keep hearing about the drama in the House, and they wonder, all right, well, there's the Senate, there's the White House. Why is this so focused on the House? What are the big problems?
Well, the big problem is that we have a Speaker of the House that they have a very narrow majority in the House. Depending on attendance, it can be down to as few as a 2-seat majority for the Republicans. And so we have a Speaker, Speaker Johnson, who seems to be more interested in catering to the most extreme elements of his own party that would not like to see a budget done. If he would listen to the vast majority, I think, of his own party and Democrats, we want to work together. We want to get a bipartisan budget done. We've actually voted on this last year, a framework that the President and the Senate had agreed to that would have frozen spending for 2 years, which was an important compromise that was reached to address some of the concerns that we have on spending, but would keep continuity of our federal government. You know, in the 13th district, I have 7,200 federal workers. And so every time they see us kicking the can down the road, the lack of stability, and our expectation that these are workers that are going to be showing up every day, some of them are in the military, showing up every day to work for our government, work for our country, but not have the guarantee of a paycheck, that's just not right.
All of this drama has really just defined your first year in office, which congratulations, you've hit you've hit a year in office. I wonder, when you look back on it, does that, not taint the view of it at all? But I mean, it's been difficult to get things done in the House of Representatives.
It has been difficult. You know, one of the things, I serve on the House Agriculture Committee, as we've talked a lot about, Cole, very interested in getting a farm bill done. But with all this political noise, quite frankly, around the budget, it's taken a lot of the oxygen out of the room, and we had to do an extension of the farm bill, which comes up in September. Despite all that, though, when I look at my first year, I think we've been able to really find some real wins and make some real progress for the communities of Central and Southern Illinois. I've been able to help work with communities to deliver almost over $300 million of federal grant dollars. And what that's meant is infrastructure dollars, that's investments in workforce development. Those are the types of things that I think the working families of Central and Southern Illinois want to see me prioritize. Less on the political noise, more on the deliverables and the solutions. And in our first year, being able to bring those kind of federal dollars back home really make a difference for people in their everyday lives. You know, I look back on this last year, and we had Secretary Budzinski come to the village of Savoy. We were one of the very few congressional districts in the country. We're the only congressional district in the state of Illinois to get a RAISE grant. That RAISE grant was $22 million for the village of Savoy for an infrastructure project to invest in a grade separation initiative that they'd been advocating for decades.
Talked a lot about the political noise in Washington. I want to kind of shift to some of the political noise here in Illinois. The state, really early on here in this session, a lot of the conversation is on the migrant crisis up in Chicago, the people that are still being bussed into the city, and the attempts to try to find resources for them. A lot of what we've heard from state leaders is there needs to be federal immigration action. What can be done in Washington? What are, the rest of the, Illinois delegation,
Yeah.
trying to push for something to bring some relief here.
Well, this migrant situation just really underscores the fact that we have an absolutely, completely broken immigration system in this country. We have a crisis at our border. We need to be finding funding to secure our border. We have thousands of illegal immigrants that are crossing the border every day. We need to provide the resources for those that are providing the support to secure that border. I've introduced a number of pieces of legislation to support more resources at the border, and investments in technology, which I think is really critically important as a tool to further securing it. But as a part of that, we also have to create pathways to citizenship for those that want to legally enter our country, how they're able to do that. Just last week, I actually I signed on to support the Dignity Act, which really does that. It's a bipartisan piece of legislation that would address our broken immigration system, creating a legal pathway for those that want to legally enter our country but secure our border. We need to be doing more to do that, and I think that would help alleviate the pressures that we're seeing around the migrant crisis. But again, we have a failure of Republican leadership in the House that's more interested in scoring political points and has been very clear in public about the fact that they don't want to look for a bipartisan agreement to fix our broken immigration system. They want to wait for a potential Donald Trump administration to deal with the border and wait another year or two to get to it. This is a crisis that is happening right now at our border. We need to secure it, and we need to do it now. And I believe that we can do that on a bipartisan basis. And those are the kind of solutions that I'm looking to work with both Democrats and Republicans to do in Washington.
The people that are coming to Chicago, that are being brought to Chicago in the sense, are people that are on one of those pathways that you mentioned. There's asylum seekers, they're going through this process. They're not here illegally. They're following this process, but they're just being bused to different parts of the country in this sense. In that particular sense, this is all part of that. There's a political game here being played as well.
Yeah, I would just say we have a broken asylum system. Our asylum system is a part of the larger immigration system in our country. We need to fix our asylum system.
Is it just too easy to declare for that process? What is broken about that particular part
Well,
of it?
I think that first of all, there's a huge backlog to folks that are looking to come into the country, so we need to figure out how we can more pragmatically process people. But we need to, again, be able to secure the border so we don't have people illegally entering our country while they're seeking asylum. If we secured our border, that would help alleviate some of that pressure and that migration into this country. But let me just say, what Governor Abbott is doing is just tragic. I mean, he is using human beings as political pawns in this country when they come across the border, shipping them out into places that they don't know, they're unfamiliar with. I think, as I said, we need to find a bipartisan solution to securing our border. Put the politics aside. These are human beings. We need to secure the border, but we do need to find a pathway that's legal, a legal pathway for people if they want to come into our country that is pragmatic and addresses the influx that we're seeing at our borders today.
Congresswoman Nikki Budzinski, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Cole.
We'll be right back.